Welcome to the channel. I'm Chad. A viewer of mine named Danielle, who I've gotten to know a bit on a personal level recently, asked me a couple of very interesting questions. These questions concern two videos I made last week on reincarnation and soul levels. Before I get into all of that, let's listen to Danielle's question and then I'll clarify everything and give my answers.
My first question is it possible to become a level 4 or 5 soul in your current lifetime? So for example, what I mean by that is, let's say that I'm a level 1 soul right now. Is it possible for me to develop into a level 4 or 5? Or no matter how much I develop my gifts and my mindset and my spirituality, will I still be a level 1 in this lifetime before I am reincarnated into the next lifetime? And part 2 of this question, if I am a level 1 currently, once I'm reincarnated into the next lifetime, does that mean I'll be a level 2? Or based on what I've learned in this lifetime, could I potentially jump to a level 4 or 5?
Those are two really good questions, and I'm answering them in video format because I believe this information will be helpful to a lot of people. If you haven't watched those two reincarnation and soul level videos, no worries, I'll recap here. I've talked extensively on the channel throughout the years about one Dr. Michael Newton, who was a past life regression therapist, and I'll give you the brief rundown of who he was and his importance to the spiritual movement. So over a very long career, Dr. Newton regressed thousands of clients using a special form of hypnosis. And he regressed these people to the time before they were born. So basically, to their past lives and their time in the spirit world. Now, Dr. Newton went on to write a series of books based on the information he received from his clients. And he would record the sessions and then transcribe them, taking the best information and using it in his books. The most popular book was called Journey of Souls, which was published in 1994. His follow-up book, Destiny of Souls, was published in the year 2000. And it was a similar work that also gained a good deal of popularity. In both books, Dr. Newton talked about the various levels all souls progress through. Overall, he classified 7 different levels of souls. And I'm going to talk in more detail about this, but if you want to know more information, check out page 171 in Destiny of Souls. There, Dr. Newton placed a chart that shows the corresponding colors each soul level radiates. And these colors can only be seen in the spirit world when looking at the soul. Although it is worthy to note that some psychics claim they can see color when looking at a person's aura. For our practical purposes, I want to focus on the first 5 levels of souls, as Earth is primarily made up of those 5 levels. The higher levels are ascended master types and souls who no longer need to incarnate to Earth. Alright, let's briefly go through the 5 levels of souls as classified by Dr. Newton. A level 1 soul is a beginner or baby soul. A level 2 soul is considered to be a young soul. As we move up in the hierarchy, a level 3 soul is viewed as an intermediate or mature soul. A level 4 soul is considered by Dr. Newton to be an old soul. And finally, at level 5, we have the transcendental soul. Now, I don't want to get into the specifics of each soul here, but I will in a future video. Now, you might be wondering, what differentiates the various soul levels? Well, souls advance through these levels via the process of reincarnation. They choose experiences and lessons in each lifetime that align with their current level of development. And each lifetime offers opportunities for growth and learning, allowing the soul to progress to the next level. Now, this only happens when they have sufficiently integrated the lessons of their current level. So, for example, a level 1 soul may have only lived a few lifetimes, whereas an intermediate or level 3 soul has lived 30 to 50 lifetimes. So there is a definite correlation between how advanced a soul is and how many lifetimes they've lived. But this correlation is not always accurate because souls can de-evolve as well. Next, you may be wondering what level soul you are. Yeah, that's a good question. Dr. Newton classified each of his patients into one of the 5 levels of souls that I mentioned. Keep in mind that the sample size of his patients was only a few thousand. So his numbers may not hold true over the entire population of the planet, but they can give us a good rough estimate. In terms of percentage, here is what Dr. Newton provided for each level. In terms of level 1 souls, Dr. Newton classified a staggering 42% of his clients were at this level. This is higher than I imagined, and it means that almost half the world could be beginner souls. Dr. Newton classified 31% of his patients to be level 2 souls. This is also a high percentage. It means roughly a third of the world is at this level, which, if you remember, is a young soul. Combined, both levels, 1 and 2, account for 73% of the world, or roughly 3 out of every 4 people. Now, hearing this, it makes sense why the world is such a mess. And if you believe you're a higher level soul, one of the challenges you have is getting along in a world where 3 out of 4 people are young and immature souls. Moving on, level 3 souls accounted for only 17% of Dr. Newton's patients, so as we move up in level, we can see the percentages drop off. Only 9% of Dr. Newton's patients were level 4 or old souls. And finally, level 5 souls accounted for a mere 1% of all of Dr. Newton's patients. So there you go. By odds alone, you're probably a level 1 or 2 soul. However, I understand many of you who watch my channel are not the average viewers, so there is a good chance you could be a level 3 or even 4 soul. Level 5s are very rare. Alright, now that I laid out all the groundwork, let's turn to answering Danielle's questions. The first question was, if you're a level 1 soul, can you evolve into a level 4 or 5 in just one lifetime? The short answer is no. First, keep in mind that the levels Dr. Newton classified are simply guidelines to describe a soul's evolutionary level, and not absolutes. This is not like the martial arts, where you graduate from one level and are given status when reaching a new level. Also keep in mind that Dr. Newton was the ultimate judge of each client's soul level, and his judgment is probably not perfect or accurate in every person's case. Also keep in mind these levels are not hierarchical in the sense of superiority or inferiority. Instead, they represent different phases of spiritual growth and understanding. While it is important from an ego standpoint to want to know your soul level, I don't think it would be beneficial to your advancement as a soul to harp on it. A good way to know your soul level is simply look around your life. Are you happy? Do you get upset easily? Are your emotions in check, or do you fly off the handle at the simplest things? Do you have a good loving relationship with the people in your life, or not? Are you overall a good person? Do you aspire to help people and make the world a better place? Are your dreams mostly on the pleasant side? Do you have any psychic abilities? The honest answer to all these questions will tell you your soul level. Remember, the higher the level, the more selfless overall a person is. Level 4 and 5 souls are generally the teachers and healers of this world. Now, according to Dr. Newton, a person needs many lifetimes to spiritually evolve. And when I say spiritually evolve, I mean, as Tom Campbell would say, raise the quality of your consciousness. Basically, shed your fears and become love. This usually requires many lifetimes living in various situations to do. See, a level soul 1 with only a few lifetimes. You see, a level 1 soul with only a few lifetimes is not going to suddenly jump to a level 4 soul in just one life. And that's because to learn all these lessons, a soul needs to learn. It needs time. It requires a lot of experience. Now, of course, this is my personal opinion based on reading Dr. Newton's 2 books and everything else that I know. If souls could learn everything they need in one lifetime, then reincarnation would not be very necessary. And the reason I know that it is because so many patients of Dr. Newton claim to have lived dozens of lifetimes and were still working out their karma and life lessons. Of course, don't let my answers dissuade or discourage you. I mean, perhaps you can make a quantum jump in one lifetime, but that would be the exception and not the norm. Now, Danielle, you posed your question as if you are just a level 1 soul. but you probably wouldn't have your life together as you do and be interested in spirituality if you were only a level 1 soul. So chances are you're beyond level 1 and even level 2. The second question you asked is, if I am a level 1 and die, does that mean I'll automatically reincarnate as a level 2 soul? The answer again here is no. Death does not change the quality of your consciousness. It simply reveals your true or higher self to you. After death, your free will awareness unit or personality fades away and you integrate back with your soul, or what some people call the higher self. Tom Campbell calls it the individuated unit of consciousness, or IUOC. And the only thing that affects your quality of consciousness is the experience you gain in the physical. For us, that means our time here on Earth. And the level you're at when you die is the level you'll be at when you reincarnate. So if you're a level 1 soul and die, you'll be reborn as a level 1 soul. Same as if you're a level 4 soul. If you die and are reborn, well, you come back as a level 4 soul. And that's because the level of your soul remains relatively stable. Sure, you can evolve or de-evolve, but between death and rebirth, your level will almost always remain the same. Why? Because time spent in the spirit world is easy and does not challenge or teach us to grow. And that's the reason that we incarnate into physical matter realities like Earth. They're great learning environments for the soul. Here we have a lot of skin in the game and have to make life and death decisions. And we also have to deal with suffering, selfishness, and fear. And those are 3 things we generally don't experience in the spirit world, where everything we need is present. It's as many of my guests have said, Earth is a very dense physical place where we live temporarily restricted lives. We're limited here in many ways that we're not in the spirit world. And it's meant to be that way. Tom Campbell says this is a virtual reality with a very tight rule set. So we're forced to do many things that we're not in the spirit world, like eat, sleep, procreate, seek comfortability, and of course, go to the bathroom. In a more general sense, we all have to fend for ourselves and earn our keep, so to speak. And I believe these things are all built into this simulator to facilitate growth. Of course, from our perspective, the world appears unfair, uncaring, and quite cold. But that's just the nature of the beast. So there you go. But remember, these are my answers, Danielle, so take them with a grain of salt and always live your life based off your own truth. It's cool to want to know the answers to life's deepest questions, and that's part of what I'm doing here on this channel. But ultimately, each of us has to walk the path alone, at least in terms of leveling up our soul evolution. If you guys watching at home have any questions for me, email them to me in written or spoken format. My address is listed below in the description. I also want to let you know that I secured an interview tomorrow with Ishmael Perez. And if you don't know Ishmael, he considers himself to be a cosmic ambassador whose life mission is to reveal our true galactic roots and Earth's relationship to the multiverse. So if you believe the Earth is not a globe, well, you may not enjoy this interview too much, although I think you can get something out of every interview. Ishmael is also the author of the popular book, Our Cosmic Origin, and interestingly, it was published on this exact date 2 years ago. And I don't want to say this exact date because, well, for certain reasons. So I'm stoked to have Ishmael on the show, and if you have any questions for him at all, post them in the comment section or email them to me. And lastly, I'll just leave off by saying this show is primarily supported by viewer donation. So if you'd like to contribute to my work, you can give a one-time donation via PayPal, Cash App, or become a Patreon member. All links are below. And if you don't like any of those choices, there's always the thanks button. Alright, hope you got something out of this one. I'll see you in tomorrow's video. It's been a pleasure, and a big namaste. I got no resentment, no vendetta. Yeah, she told me up because I let her. Bet I eat that bar like it's a setup. Pussy dripping down, I know she let her.